Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We welcome you to our webinar today. And my name is Scott Courtier. I'm Senior Technical Sales with InduSoft. And today we're going to cover a project with a company we've done business with for a long time, Motion Control Corporation, Mr. Jody Williquette. And he's going to highlight a project that he worked on. And I believe his customer is actually on. Dale, thank you for joining us and letting us do this. We really appreciate it. And just want to give a notice as we get started here today, before I get into some of the logistics, that both of us, both Jody and myself, are experiencing very high winds at our locations. We've lost power many times today. We do still plan on presenting. There is a good chance we'll lose power during the webinar. I've made a bunch of provisions. I'm running on battery backup power. I'm doing this through my cell phone, my hotspot, so maybe we'll stay live. I hope so. But thank you for understanding. Really appreciate it. Going to be an exciting one today. And let's go ahead and get started. Just a quick logistics. For those of you who haven't been on one of our webinars before, we can't hear you. So if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please put those into the chat panel or the Q&A panel, and Jody and I will try to get to those either during the presentation or during the question and answers section as well. Also, again, we're recording these sessions, and the morning session was recorded. That should be up on the website in a few days, and if we get through this one, hopefully, you won't have to go back and view that. But we've got I think over 140 of these things up on the website now, with all different types of topics. If you have something that you're looking for, please feel free to take a look on our website. You know what I'm going to do? Pull the website into view here. And if you go to the main website, just InduSoft.com, go here under support, look at video library, you'll see webinars here. And if you go under webinars, you'll see a chronological list. And I apologize, maybe this is a little bit slow because I'm trying to do too much through my cell phone, but here's the chronological list of webinars, but they're also broken out into different categories here on the side. So lots of good information covering drivers, databases, different industry type focuses. So hopefully something that you're interested in is up there. And if not, let us know on that survey. Also, if you fill out the survey and give us your shirt size, we're going to send you a free t-shirt just for joining us. Show our appreciation for that. And also, if you, again, please let us know how we did today, how we're doing in general on these webinars. But if you'd like to co-host a webinar with us, we'd love to have you on. Send us an email. I think there's also a question in the survey that asks you that as well. So, again, both of us are experiencing high winds. We might lose power, but we still plan on presenting. So let's go ahead and get started here. Again, my name is Scott Courtier. I'm with InduSoft. I'm Senior Technical Sales. And Jody and I collaborated a little bit, and hopefully I don't steal some of his presentation, but I'm going to talk about some features that complement the project that he's going to talk about. Also, I want to just avoid possible confusion. We may have confused people when we announced this webinar. Jody works for a company called Motion Control Corporation. We're not necessarily covering a lot on motion control today, although Jody might touch on it. We're mainly talking about the project that he worked on and some different facets of that as well. Again, apologize if there were any miscommunications there. As I start to talk about some of the features and some of the things within the product, I'm going to spend just a few minutes of this, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jody here in just a few minutes. But I wanted to talk about the communications or the interoperability from InduSoft Web Studio. And if you take a look at this diagram, kind of here in the middle is InduSoft Web Studio, or kind of more importantly, it's probably the tag names with InduSoft Web Studio. And you know, most of the time when you're going to use a product like this, you're going to communicate with one of our over 240 drivers to just about any brand of PLC that's out there. But it's not only PLCs. It's temperature controllers. It's motion control. It's RFID and barcodes and things of that nature, barcode readers. And we have Ethernet drivers and serial-based drivers and drivers that'll that'll use special interface cards like DeviceNet and CAN and things of that nature. But again, talking about the serial-based drivers, for example, we've been doing drivers for a long time, and a lot of our drivers are serial-based. So what might be surprising to many of you is we can communicate to things like motion like temperature controllers that might only have an RS-232 or RS-485 connection, and then be able to get that information into InduSoft tags and then up to a database. So these legacy devices that you may not have ever considered being able to get information into a database, we could do that. Similarly, we can take information from one brand of PLC, let's say an Omron PLC, get that into InduSoft, and then share that with other PLCs, so kind of acting as a communication gateway, and that's very easy to do. And share that information or communicate to PLCs, get that information into OPC, up to the web or down from the web. Notice that all of these arrows are bi-directional. So from any of these interfaces to any of these interfaces, really neat solution, and Jody's going to touch a little bit more about that. As I mentioned, we have over 240 drivers that are built in, meaning no additional cost when you purchase the product, and so you can communicate to just about any brand of PLC that you want. And I want to point out, a lot of people don't realize this, but the drivers are actually independent from the InduSoft Web Studio version. What do I mean by that, and why is this important? Well, if you go to our website and you just go onto let me expand this here. You go onto the home page. Here under Products and Downloads, you're going to see Drivers. And if you go to this is where you can always find the latest version of the drivers. Now, this has the latest version, but that doesn't mean that you can't use this latest version with an older version of InduSoft Web Studio. Let me explain. These drivers are independent, and most times you could use this, even though these are the drivers that for the most part ship with our current version, which is version 8.0, Service Pack 1, Patch 1. You can use these drivers in, for example, version 7.1, version 7.0, or even back to 6.1, and maybe in some cases even earlier. Why is that important? Let's say we fixed something and you're still using version 7.1 of InduSoft Web Studio. You can use the latest driver in an older version, or that doesn't happen often, but maybe we broke something and you want to use an older version of a driver in a newer version of the software. You can do that too. Let me move this website out of the way and open up the product here. Bringing in InduSoft Web Studio here, and I've got the help system or the help tab open here, and this is where you would go if you wanted help for the entire product. But notice that the communications drivers are actually separate, and there's a separate PDF for each of the communications drivers, and that's how you get to those. And that's why they're separate, because we can update the manuals for those drivers independent from the product version. So I think that's kind of neat. Optionally, you can use OPC if you wanted to. Jody's going to talk a little bit more about the Omron driver, and I just want to make sure everybody understands this, that the Omron driver is only included when you purchase from Omron or an Omron distributor, such as Motion Control Corporation is. If you purchase in InduSoft Web Studio directly from InduSoft, you don't get that Omron driver. So if you want to talk to an Omron specifically using this driver, there are other ways to talk to Omron PLCs, but not necessarily the latest and greatest. And the best way to do that, if you want to do that, talk to one of your Omron distributors, and maybe even get Motion Control Corp here in Michigan a call. So moving on. Jody's application or the customer's application talks a little bit about databases, and I want to just touch briefly on database connections. Talk about default connection that you can use throughout your project, and then a specific one, and then we'll talk about some of the built-in functions. So again, let me pull this InduSoft Web Studio in here, and I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to overwrite my previous one. Thanks for the warning there. And what I want to point out is if you need to log data, there's several different ways, and one of the easiest ways is to set up a default connection to a database, which you'd go here through your project, go to options, and then set up your default database connection. The really neat thing is you can put in this connection string in here, and if you knew what you were doing, which I don't happen to know, I could actually type this out. That would be my connection to my provider, username, password, and formatted that string all properly. But we have this really neat little wizard here that you can open up and choose what type of provider you're going to. For example, if I was using Microsoft Office product, or even Microsoft Access, or Oracle, or other products, depends on what you have in the PC. Your list might be different than my list here, but I'm going to choose this one if I wanted to go to Microsoft SQL Server, and then what I would do would be to probably hit this next button here, and I would give it the name of my database engine, the security methodology that I'm using, and the database that's on that. So first I need to point it to the engine, then I need to point it to the individual database, then I can test my connection, and once I get that, it's actually filled out the string for me, and I don't need to type that, and I don't need to know how to type that. Another thing that's really neat is this string, this connection string, can actually be a tag, a string type tag. So if you put inside of curly brackets, one of the things you'll often see some of the InduSoft guys doing is just putting in a string tag here called connection string. If I could spell right. So they'll use a string type tag here called connection string, and then they'll define that in the startup script. That way, if their database connection changes, the IT group decides to move it moves to a different server, et cetera, it's very easy to define where that is. Another thing to point out, we'll go ahead and create that as a string type tag. Another thing to point out is there's built-in redundancy here. So I can choose secondary, I can choose if it's redundant or a store and forward type connection, and then set up that secondary type connection. In this case, I'm not going to show that, but that can be done in there as well. Once you've set up that default connection, then you can use that throughout your entire project. And a really easy way to do this is here under the Tasks tab, go to the Trend, Insert. Now, this is kind of a little bit misleading because this should be, I'd like to rename this just Log, because it doesn't necessarily need to be used only with the trend. It can be used without the trend object. The way to use this is you just put tag names in here. This list will expand as you add tags, and then you can put a triggering tag in here, and whenever that tag changes, in this case it's the systems tag called second, which changes once per second, this will lock all the tags in this list by default to a proprietary file on the hard drive, but you can change this and go to that default database connection and or to a different connection if you wanted to without knowing any SQL. This is really neat because it'll just happen behind the scenes, and it'll log that at whatever rate or whenever this tag changes, whether it's a time-based or whether it's end of cycle of a machine or your end of your process or a batch. Very flexible, very neat way to do that. So that's one thing there. The other thing that you can do, let me save this, get out of here. In addition to creating that default connection, you can go here under Database ERP and create a named connection. And what do I mean by that? So here I would just call this maybe something like my data or my DB for my database, or make it a little bit more descriptive. Maybe it's your production database or whatever the case may be. And then create that same or similar connection string much in the same way that I did on the previous screen, but now we have a named connection to go to this specific database. So you can create multiple of these, naming them different things if you have different types of databases. Now, what I want to point out is in the help system, let me pull this in view here, the built-in scripting language has some really neat functions to support that database connection that we just created. One of the neatest ones, kind of the most flexible, is this DB execute. And what I wanted to point out is that the way that you use this is the DB execute, and I will very often use just these first two parameters, which is the connection name and the SQL command. Now let me scroll down here and show you an example. So very similar to how we just named that connection MyDB, you would use that in here, and then you could put the SQL command in after that, just inside of double quotes, and you can basically send any SQL command that you want to that database and get the results back into tags and array. And the really neat thing is this doesn't need to be the SQL command inside of here. This can actually be a tag, a string type tag, or a VB script variable, and you can build that as you go and change it and concatenate it and do different things. So it becomes very flexible, very powerful, kind of behind the scenes. All right, let's go back to my PowerPoint here. So that was those three things. I also wanted to mention that Jody's presentation is going to talk about collecting data, and I just wanted to point out, though they didn't use this template, it's available on our website, and it's basically a way with a very easy three-step process to basically you point at your data, whether it's in Microsoft Access or SQL Server. It could be Microsoft SQL Server or SQL Server Express. So you point it to where the data is. You then define your layout. Here is a layout with a large slice here on the right-hand side, and then two, one on top of each other. You could do two side by side, one big one. Choose your color combinations, and then you choose what type of data, how you want to show this, how you want to visualize this, whether it's a Pareto chart, a pie, a line chart, a table, and then boom, the data just starts coming in. At that point, you can show this on thin clients. You can save to PDF reports, kind of a digital type factory. Makes it extremely easy and neat way to get information, business intelligence, and see what's going on in your production environment, your process, whatever you're doing at that point. So some additional resources, and again, the slides and the video will be posted up on the website in a couple of days here. But we've done a webinar previously with one of the Omron senior application engineers talking about how to use the connection. Jody's going to actually talk a bit about this as well, but there's a webinar up on our website where we go into some more detail. The drivers up on the website, I showed you that. We also have database or SQL webinars and the training videos that we have up on our website. If you're not familiar with those, again, you can go to the website, and let me just go to the home page here and go under the training top-level navigation, and let's see, here is online training videos. And if you weren't aware of this, we have essentially our full 5-day training class online broken down into a bunch of different videos. I believe there's about 40 different videos here covering just about every topic that you can imagine, and walking you through the use of the software. And so those are online for free. You can stream those, or you can download those and watch those at your convenience. And if you want to put the kids to sleep real early, that's a good way to do it. And then there's a brochure and a webinar specifically on that business intelligence dashboard. With that, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jody. Jody, I'm unmuting you. Are you there?
I am here, sir.
All right. I'm going to hand over presentation status to you. And again, just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, put those into the chat panel or the Q&A panel, and we'll try to get to those either during the presentation or at the end. Jody, you should have presentation status coming your way. Don't forget to share your screen. And it looks like it's coming on. So see a gray screen. There we go. There's your presentation. I'm going to mute myself. Jody, take it away.
All right. Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Jody Willicat. I'm one of our system engineering sales people here at Motion Control Corporation. We're going to be talking about an application that we did for one of our customers. And then we're going to also talk about kind of why InduSoft was a good fit for that application, and then for our broader range of applications such as motion control, and that a motion control system, not just our name as well. Okay. So we were given a lead for a customer called BYRNE Electrical Specialists, and they are a wire harness manufacturer for the furniture industry, office furniture, hospitality, you name it, education. They do wire harnesses for the power plugs, communications, any of the modules that you might plug something into. Located in Rockford, Michigan, which was a new area for me. I had never been to Rockford. Great company to work with. We started talking about their application, and the initial requirements were very specific. We were looking for the replacement of antiquated equipment. They were getting requirements from their customer for data and testing information and traceability. And they were having issues replacing the equipment. This is a system that's been obsolete for, a dozen or so years, maybe a little less, but great product, but no longer available. So we needed to find a system that was expandable. That was a requirement. It had to allow for data acquisition, and we also needed something that the personnel, the BYRNE electrical specialist personnel, could handle locally, not something that had to be serviced from, remotely from us or from other outside parties. The original equipment that we were looking at, this is a hipot tester, continuity tester, and it was based off of, again, the C2M1, which was an older modular style PLC, but it was standalone, zero network capabilities. It would respond to some serial protocols, an Omron protocol called HostLink. And again, it was obsolete, so it was very difficult, very costly to replace. Black market, gray market, so to speak. What we proposed actually was to replace half of the C2M1s with a newer CJ2M product, and then add an NJ101, which is it's an Omron PLC system, tag-based, but it comes with an option to have a SQL license. So it's a SQL client. So we can push data up to InduSoft as well as pull information from our PLC. So it's a data. So what we're doing, we're taking, and we wrote a serial protocol to talk to the Ethernet IP to the NJ. The NJ is pushing it up to InduSoft. It was a very easy way to replace a majority of the gray box testers in phases. It reduced the overall budget required, and over time, all of the C2M1s, as either through failure or any other issues, they will be replaced up to a CJ as well. The big question is, what about the InduSoft portion? We talked about the hardware components. As we continued going into the capabilities, the requirements, what the plant is doing, one, the system needed to be integrated into the current.
Hey, Jody, this is Scott.
Yes. Yes.
You're breaking up a little bit cell phone wise. If you can move your phone, maybe. I don't know if it's the wind here or there, but maybe move it to a window or something.
Okay, I can definitely do that.
All right. You were 90% there, but 10% irritating. So
okay. Is this
ahead,
any better?
So far, I'll let you know if there's another problem. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. It had to be usable by multiple groups or departments within the company as well. They did not want a package that was only useful for one application that was band-aided into everything else that they had. So it had to be seamless with everything else that their IT department and management was doing. So it really needed to be a backbone for plant management, provide dashboard information, production reporting. Since the initial implementation, we've also added RFID inventory tracking and tooling tracking as a new project and program, and our ultimate goal is to work towards what we're calling earned labels. And that means that as a product is manufactured and tested, the label for that tested product is printed at that time and only at that time. So it gives them traceability throughout their entire process. And that's one of the final goals that we're working towards. If you look at all of the different products that the InduSoft software can talk to, integrate with, pull, control, and access, you look at the PLC side from our point of view is the OMRON product. And this custom driver that was mentioned for the OMRON products actually uses the OMRON middleware. So it's very seamless. It works perfect. For us, that was an immediate go-to. But we have any number of other manufacturing systems that are in the BYRNE facilities. They have injection mold presses, for example. Mitsubishi, Allen Bradley, there's any number of potential products, PLCs, makes, brands, and models. So we wanted something that could be expanded to monitor their injection mold press process, monitor their cooling and water circulation system in the plant, talk to their ERP system. The only product that really meets the need would be the InduSoft product. So we've utilized it at a number of other facilities, but this was probably one of the broadest implementations in that it's not just the manufacturing side that we're addressing. We're working with the manufacturing, inventory, management, you know, again, that backbone for the company. This would be the expanded solution. We're working towards controlling the manufacturing process, the data flow, all the way through to the earned labels, which we're looking at here. Earned labels would be facilitated and controlled directly through the InduSoft product. The data acquisition would be coming back through the Ethernet IP, but we're also looking at pushing data down through InduSoft directly to all of the PLCs for batch processing, parameters, recipe type information, interfacing with shipping and receiving, all the way back through manufacturing and then plant level controls as well. So let's take a look at some of the screenshots. The actual application was developed by our customer, who is also on today, so thank you again for attending and for the information. This was actually developed with some input from us, a lot of help from the InduSoft staff, an on-site training, and a number of different things that went into the development. But it was developed on-site by our customer and his counterparts. So meeting the need of being maintainable and expandable locally by the on-site staff is proven here. So this is basically a kind of a front-end screen, a main menu for logging in, getting the information, going into the various areas of the system. These are active areas, depending on whose department and area. If you click on it, there's specific information to that area of the plant. Then we get into some dashboard information about the operators and specialists. The capturing, you can see here, time, date, stamps, whether it passed or failed the test, which area as you go farther out, which portion of the test did it pass, did it fail. They're capturing that now, whereas 12 months ago they weren't able to maintain that information in a database format. Excuse me. The circulation system was actually a hybrid upgrade to the current system. There were some VFDs handling the pumping system, but there was no temperature feedback or no feedback actively as to the status of the system. So we added a micro PLC that's collecting data back through Ethernet IP and then ultimately back into the database and InduSoft. So this is an example of one of the larger kind of dashboard screens for plant level information.
with that application in mind, some of the reasons that we chose the InduSoft product, one, it's platform agnostic. And I know that if you've gone through any of the InduSoft trainings or webinars or presentations, but I think it's a key difference between this and some of the other platforms that are out there. We've got a way to develop on a wide range of systems, especially when you look at the thin client, the web deployment, smartphones, you name it. That availability of information in one package, for developing is outstanding. So the wide range of drivers, which met the need of the facility, it could be Omron, could be Mitsubishi, Siemens, Allen Bradley, custom devices. We've had custom drivers written by the InduSoft staff, and they did an outstanding job there. So it's customizable, expandable. For us, the native Omron driver, if you're not familiar with Omron, they've got a communication driver or communication package called FINS. It's their Factory Intelligent Network Services. FINS is what allows one Omron smart card to talk to another Omron smart card, or one PLC to talk to another PLC. It's their equivalent of SIP, the Rockwell SIP protocol, which is embedded in DeviceNet, embedded in Ethernet IP, SIP safety. So it would be their equivalent. So having the native driver written by Omron for that allowed us seamless communications. It works well with their programming software. It plays well with everything that has the Omron name on it. So it was critical for us in this implementation or application. The PLC that we were actually using, the NX, which was the SQL client, is one of their newest products. It's one of the newer ones that are tag-based. So being able to access the PLC utilizing tags versus any kind of workaround was also very important. Obviously, SQL, the SQL component of this product or project, I would say, is about 70% of the entire project, in that we want to hook into their ERP system. We want to hook into the inventory system. We want to hook into basically everything in the plant, and this is hopefully going to become the umbrella software. So high level of customization. And again, I can't say enough about the support that we've received on this and other projects. It's definitely a reason to look at the product. So one package fits all. It's kind of a one-stop shop. We're gonna do a little bit of as hands-on as you can get with a webinar type presentation. Ideally, I'd love for you to walk up, take a look at the equipment I have in front of me, but that's not possible. So we'll do the next best thing with some screen captures, some hands-on on the screen, getting into the software, and then I'll show you some images as well of a live image of a servo that we're controlling right here. Excuse me. As I mentioned, the native Omron drivers, this is working with the FINS, Factory Intelligent Network Services. You get a package called Compilot. And when you get this, if you order the package with Compilot, which you could buy separately as well, make sure you don't just toss the disk. It's real common. People get everything, they load the InduSoft, they start working, and then suddenly they forget. The FINS Compilot is a separate CD that sometimes gets tossed away, thinking it's support information or some kind of a secondary CD. So it does have to be installed as well at the time of installation of the InduSoft product. Right? So we mentioned that it works with the tag base, the NJ and the NX. The NX1P2, which is the latest and greatest, just came out a few months ago. That's actually what we're utilizing on a range of motion products. It's a micro PLC motion controller, and that's what we're going to focus on today real quick. When you set up the information, one if you note, in the background here, this is the InduSoft development environment. Right-clicking on the Omron driver gives you immediate access to the tools embedded in CompoLet. So it's not a third-party package that you then have to go out and open up. You actually can access it through the InduSoft product, which is very nice. Makes it a lot easier. When you install the CompoLet, there are a couple things that you want to note. You want to install it for a development environment. I apologize. You want to select both fins and SIP. This is a gateway between fins and SIP, so you'll be able to set up InduSoft to do tags, but it'll convert to fins as and wherever necessary. You'll want to do gateway and SysMac gateway and fins gateway, which is the middleware package. Ethernet and serial, although I have never utilized it for serial, typically. And then you can click not to install network configurator. That's for setting up Ethernet IP I/O. So it's not really related here. Once you've gotten everything installed, the only thing you have to do at this point to make everything work is select the Ethernet port on your computer or server, whatever's going to be running the runtime, and allocate it to, you'll see here, this Ethernet port ID 2. Once you select the Ethernet IP or the Ethernet port on the computer, you'll see the IP address show up next to it. One warning, if you're using a laptop that you use for multiple different things, different developments, different PLCs, different projects, if you go in and change the IP address, say to talk to a different project, you will have to go back in here and reassign it. Okay, even if you change the IP address back, it will see that it lost support, it'll turn red. So if you go back into an InduSoft implementation or project and your communications aren't updating, that tells you go back to the SysMac Gateway console right here, the communication network. You'll see that this turned red, and you're going to want to go in and reallocate it, and everything will come right back up. There's a quick way to test your communications if you're not quite sure if you set it up right. You'll be able to select the SIP communication test tool. Basically, it's really easy. Use that O2, that Ethernet port. You put in the IP address of the controller you're trying to talk to, and then leave it defaulted to the CIA entry. This will all autofill. And what it's doing is pulling the device and asking it, who are you? And if you get back, everything's okay, and you want to see NX1P2, if it's an NX, or it might say NJ101, it'll come back with basically the series of the PLC. If that happens, everything is good. Okay. From here, you can develop your InduSoft project like any other project with the communications middleware working in the background. Once you set up the communications, now you've got to set up either your main driver sheet, or if you do individual driver sheets. We like to do it as individual sheets. We'll do it either by PLC or by certain timing as far as reading and writing. But basically, the address is the tag in the PLC. The tag name is the tag that you're utilizing in InduSoft. The only tricky thing that you're probably listening to me saying, well, duh. The only important thing is, one, under header, you have to tell it that it's a tag, that you're doing tag-based, versus putting in the memory type. The older Omron PLCs, one series that this driver also works for, does not utilize tags. Well, I should say it typically does not utilize tags. There is a way to do it, but we won't get into that. So you have to tell it that you're working with tags and not a direct memory address, you put in the IP address of the PLC you're targeting. 2 refers to that port again, which is Ethernet. And then whether you're talking to an NJ series, you put NJ for the NX series as well, because they're basically the same CPU embedded. And that's it. Everything else that you might do, your enable write trigger, your read trigger, it's all the same. This is identical in any project. So the only important thing, remember, IP address. 2 is fixed. It signifies that you're using Ethernet, and then NJ for the NX or NJ PLCs. There is one thing, this is outside of the control of the InduSoft package. If you forget to do this, it will not work. When you're programming in the Omron Sysmax Studio environment, so that's an NJ or an NX PLC, you absolutely have to publish the variable for something outside of the PLC to see it. So if you want to be able to access something externally via InduSoft or any other package, third-party HMIs, whatever, you have to publish it. If you don't, you're just going to get a lot of question marks and no information. The PLC will refuse to send the data. So you won't be able to pull it, change it, read, write, or anything else. So that's the one kicker. Always remember, if you want InduSoft to see it, put it as published versus do not publish. And that's done, actually, and I'll show you this in a minute, in the global variable table. So we utilize the InduSoft product for supervisory applications, exchange of information, some direct interfacing as far as starting and stopping, or mostly resets. We don't typically do a lot of active control, but it's typically supervisory to the system that's doing the active control. In this case, we're talking about the NX1P2, which is a machine automation controller up to 8 axes of motion. So we do this typically for our torque testing systems and then any other basic low-end motion control. So the InduSoft driver, having that direct middleware compolet, give us fast access to the information, the graphing, the recipes. We can look at our torque profiles. We can look at our speed profiles. It allows us to set limits if we're ever exceeding certain tolerances. We'll need to either modify the system or auto-tune a servo, any number of things. So we're going to go through a quick application example. I'm going to show you some of the environment that we talked about, from the compolet through to the Sysmax Studio to a basic implementation in InduSoft. So bear with me for 1 second while I get this switched around, and I'll show you a few things. This is basic information about Motion Control Corporation here, as well as contact information once we're done. But hold on 1 second. Okay, this is the Sysmax Gateway console, and I'm going to stop my communications right now, which I've been in the background, and give you an idea how this is going to look when you first open it up. So you're going to go in, you're going to highlight the Ethernet port. This is going to be red, or it will be empty. So you can go in and select the port that you want to use, and then OK. Auto start. I keep it resident in the tray so I can actually do some monitoring and pull this back up easily. Once you hit start, you're done. That is about everything you need to do to actually set up and configure the middleware. Okay. If you want to test from the control panel, that communication test that we were talking about, I'm going to bring it over to the screen. So all you need to do, it defaults to your address, but you want the target address. So mine is 192.168.250.1. I'm just going to do a CIA entry. I'm going to get its identity, and give me back its basic attributes. All you really care about is, do I get the PLC name back or not, and all okays. So I got the NX1P2, send, receive, everything's okay. So my communications are up, they're working, and I've got no problems there. I'm going to close this. I'm going to show you a little bit about the environment in the SysMax Studio real quick, and then how we set up our drivers. This is really the power and why we use it for our motion systems or any of our applications. This is next number of tags and variables. Only certain ones that like nowadays versus years ago, but there's no reason to have a lot of noise going out there. So we only publish the information that we really want to utilize in a third-party package. So that might be actual torque. It might be on a specific end control axes. Excuse me. It might be any kind of alarm status or whatever else. So we have an axis set up right now, which is an EtherCAT servo. That EtherCAT servo has any number of parameters that we've set up in advance. And we have access to all of that information via this MC axis 0 variable. That's a data structure. It's a basket of information. So we can go down on this. I'm going to make an online edit. Give you an example of what I'm talking about. MC axes, I want to go to another grouping of information, maybe be commanded. Okay. Dot position. Okay. I can drill into any amount of information, and by using the Omron driver, getting the information back into InduSoft properly, if I can get over there, I can actually declare my variable the same way. So if you look at this one right here, I can say my actual torque, and I have the structure just to highlight that I'm getting it from a structured variable for this example. I can do the MC axes dot actual dot torque, for example, for torque. So you can create a direct reference to the structured variables in the Omron PLC, which saves a lot of time, a lot of code, and a lot of effort, and makes it very easy to troubleshoot. I can also move the information in the PLC. This is the only way to do it, but I can take it and I can convert it or move it from the structure to just a variable, and then I can just take that variable, for example, torque actual, versus using the structure, which I think is a little faster, a little more precise. Okay. So that gives you a little bit of information in how to set up the tags to the Omron system using the InduSoft product, setting up the middleware. So let's take a look at a real quick application. All right. So what I've got here is real quick, couple buttons. We're turning on a servo. I can start and stop a motion profile, set the PLC faults. Here is the servo we're controlling over on the right. I can set up an XL, a decel, velocity, and go from there. So hopefully, if everything works, we can come in, turn the servo on and off. 300 RPM. I can, let's see, pulse reset. I lost my link. I think I've got a cable down. Get data. Good. There we go. So I can, you know, this is a real basic motion control. I could be plotting two servos, you know, X and Y position if I'm doing linear interpolated motion. I can look at torque profiles, and that's one of the things we're doing here. You can see the torque values jumping as we're holding onto the servo or moving things around. You can see the position. Let's get rid of some of this a little bit. For example, torque. And the graphing tool makes it so nice, so much easier. This gives us active feedback on our actual motion parameters, and then that's one of the things we like about the system. So now we're running 3600 instead of 360. Give you a little example of how we can access those parameters with the direct InduSoft drivers. So I'm going to exit that out of here. Show you one more quick thing. Okay. When you're setting this up, the only thing that we like to do, we like to make sure that we're working off the same data structure. So by that I mean, if we're doing the move, or we're moving from the structure to a fixed variable, for example, velocity, versus using the direct access to the structure, you do have to be consistent. You don't want to mix and match, because you will actually get a slight inconsistency in the data because of the just moving, scanning, scan times, communication latency. If you're going to send the information, you want to send it all in the same format using the same access to data in the PLC. In very precise applications, we found that you can get enough of a difference to add some inaccuracy. So as long as you're looking at the data the same way throughout your entire process, it works outstanding. All right. Come back here real quick. That is the majority of the presentation. I'm assuming I still have a link, but you may have just lost my visuals. So if you can switch over.
Jody, can you hear me?
Yeah, I have power flicking on and off, so I believe my network dropped out and you may not see me.
I still see your driver configuration screen. Is that what you have up?
No, I've got my presentation up now.
All right. Well, okay.
I know. I think I can fix that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take presentation status back from you just so we can keep everything rolling here. We did have a couple of questions come in. Let me go ahead and read those off to you. Let me flip back to my screen here, and there we go. And so that should come up here in a second. All right. So the couple of questions that we got, let me pull my interface back up here, is, okay, so several questions here. One of the questions was why the need to double up on InduSoft and an NJ processor with SQL access? Why was that needed?
That's actually an excellent question. I completely forgot okay, the Omron, it makes it very easy. It's a plant-level, PLC-based implementation. So it's hardware talking to hardware. With the SQL client option, it can push the data up seamlessly. But what it doesn't allow us to do is talk to some of the ancillary pieces of equipment. When you start talking about, talking to barcode printers or RFID systems, serial-based, different devices, custom testers, the InduSoft is the overall blanket to do the catch-all. Everything else that's not Ethernet IP or DeviceNet or Profinet, for example. So it's a catch-all. It also is, the NJ doesn't give you the dashboard capabilities. It's a PLC. The other question is, why wouldn't you just do all InduSoft? Why even do the NJ? One was to have that data concentrated from the plant floor and not be PC-based. The other reason, when you start talking to all of the PLCs with the InduSoft, there's a bandwidth concern. Half of them, during this implementation are serial, not Ethernet. So it gave us a way to do the hybrid hardware, where we only converted half of the PLCs, and it allows us to talk to a broader range of product than what the NJ can. Does that answer the question?
I think that answered the question. Hopefully we'll get a response back from the person that asked it. The next question is, oh, by the way, for those of you who haven't asked a question, if you want to, put those into the chat panel or the Q&A panel, and we'll run through those. Let's see, the next question that came in was, do you utilize multiple licenses of InduSoft Web Studio for this implementation, or just one large application?
Actually, the way it's proposed right now, we've got one license out there running right now. There's upwards of about a dozen or more licenses, and then they're also looking at using the license server, a runtime license.
Okay. All right. So it's basically one right now, but they're planning on adding more later.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. I was only clarifying that because you broke up just a little bit in your answer. The next question, I'm gonna take a little bit of a stab at this, and Jody, feel free to elaborate if you need to. The question is the Omron driver that you're describing different than the default Omron drivers provided in InduSoft Web Studio? And the answer is a definite yes. The Omron driver that Jody showed, which goes through fins, is a special one that's only provided if you purchase InduSoft Web Studio from Omron or from an Omron supplier. So that Omron driver is not available in the standard InduSoft package. There are some Omron drivers in InduSoft Web Studio as standard, but you don't get that capability, that same kind of advanced connection that you do if you purchase it directly from Omron. So the person wants to know, Jody, why was this one given preference over the built-in ones?
In part because we were working with the latest, newest, the NJ. The NJ series was such a departure from the older hardware, the older Omron hardware. We wanted to make sure that we were using drivers that were developed, as up to date as possible. But one thing they're very good at is drivers and backwards compatibility. So we wanted to have that embedded fins that Compo let. That was why that really goes that way versus the the Omron Ethernet drivers and the other ones that are included.
Okay, great. There was a question, I'm going to take this one, is what is the cost of this additional product? We're not going to get into actual costs. There is a difference in the cost of the Omron product versus the standard InduSoft, but feel free to talk to your Omron representative if you're really interested in that.
Yeah, give us a call with some basic targetless prices.
Yeah. Specifically, definitely call Motion Control if they are your Omron distributor, or if you want to connect up with them to get some, integration services. They're based in Michigan, but they do go all over the place if necessary. Primarily, at least in the United States, in Indiana and Ohio, and certainly in Michigan. But I don't know if anything else is out of the question. Jody, can you elaborate a little bit more on that, or what you guys covered?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. I lost you for about 20 seconds.
No problem. I was just suggesting that if somebody needs to contact you guys as an Omron distributor or for integration services, you guys are primarily in Michigan but can cover Indiana and Ohio as well. But will you go farther beyond that?
It becomes a commercial question at that point. We definitely do. If it matches our skill set and it can save you money for us to make the journey, sure. At that point, it's more commercial.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I would like to go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I would like to, Jody, I would like to thank you very much for your participation, and Dale from BYRNE, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to do this, and everybody on. I don't see any more questions. Jody, man, thank you very much. Good presentation. Glad to see that. I know the handful of times that I've worked with Omron, it's usually been set up for me. And the times that I have to do it from scratch, I usually forget some of those intermediate, the publish checkbox, and you forget to install the software so that I can actually talk to something. But great job. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
So with that, I don't see any other questions coming in. It looks like we survived the windstorm that we have going on here. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to see this either this one or the morning session video up on the website in just a few days. And don't forget to fill out the survey and let us know how we did today. Let us know if there's any topics you'd like to see in the future, or if you'd like to co-host a webinar with us. We'd love to have you on. Let us know what you've done, and we'll see if we can't get you on. And again, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it. I see a lot of people that I know who they are from all around the world. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. For those out in the Western United States, Richard, I see you there, and Greg from, I believe you're halfway around the world compared to where I'm at. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. And with that, Jody, do you have anything else?
No.
You broke up a bit there. Try again.
Just if anyone has questions, feel free, give me a call. I know my contact information is in one of the slides. Power cut out before I could get to it, but feel free, give anyone a more control.
Great. And I think if you do a search for Motion Control Corporation, you can find them online. They're based in Michigan here. And Jody, again, thank you very much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar. Everybody have a great day, great evening, great morning, wherever you're at in the world, and appreciate it. And look forward to having you in the next webinar. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.